So we had the opportunity last August of 2021 to camp at Mikisew Provincial Park, which is just north of Huntsville, probably about a 3-hour drive north of Toronto. It was about almost 4 hours from where we live. So not too bad of a drive once you get past Toronto. But there you can see it's next to Eagle Lake. So it was established in 1964, and I think it was called Eagle Lake at the time, but they changed it because there were so many Eagle Lakes in the province, so they changed it to Mikisew. It has 269 campsites, and there's two campgrounds within the park called the Pines and the Hardwoods. So we were in the Pines, and there you can see where we were circled in red, kind of the northwest to top corner of the park, which was a pretty good site. Behind us was just forest basically, which I'll show you in a minute. You can see the darker campsite numbers have electricity, and we were in a non-service site, so did not have electricity. And being one of the more popular parks, the reservations filled up pretty fast, so we weren't able to get a site with electricity, but we made do with what we had. So here's the main entrance, and a really nice rendition of an eagle painted on the sign there. And as you come in, they have this posted speed limit and just a notice about displaying your valid park permit. So there's a small parking lot and the park office, and then a little kind of little hut that they rent, I believe, life jackets and other things, and they sell firewood from that little shack as well, I believe. Okay, so just across the road is the recycling and garbage drop-off, so you have to bring all your garbage to that one area. Here is the loop for doing potable water and your dumping. So this is on the way to the Pines, and you can see that's why they name it the Pines, because that's all you see. So fairly wide open, not a lot of privacy, so if you're wanting privacy, this is probably not the best area for you. In the hardwoods, there is more greenery and more privacy. So here's the comfort station, the main comfort station for the Pines. They kept it pretty clean. They came by and cleaned it a couple times a day. So we were happy with how clean it was. And in addition to the comfort station, there was quite a few vault toilets as well that they, again, came by at least once a day to clean. So they were pretty good. No complaints with those. So here's our campsite, fairly large. This was just after setting up, so we weren't quite done, but I just wanted to grab a quick shot. Now, in behind us was a forest, and there you can see a bunny that I don't think saw our dog until the last minute, but you can see it take off into the woods. So yeah, this is kind of our view behind our campsite. Lots of pines, and once in a while you'd see some wildlife walking through. So this is the designated fenced-in dog beach. So this was our first night. We just had her on leash at first just to get her used to it. It's nice and shallow. The water is nice and warm. It's kept very clean. There is containers for dropping off your bags for what your dog produces. But yeah, the next day she was off leash and having a ball. So that was the big plus for us with this park, was an area for her, because this is one of her first times camping with her. But she had a blast, so we're happy with that aspect of the park. And there you can see the next stage. I'm just shooting from the side, just to not get too many people in the video. But yeah, there was lots of dogs, lots of people, lots of fun. And there you can see later on in the day, they do keep it pretty clean. They actually have a little obstacle course for the dogs too, so there's some things that the dogs can climb on or go through, and there's quite a lot of room, and it's completely fenced off. So you just have to make sure that you close the gate behind you when you go in and out. And this is down at the North Beach, so down at the other end of the park, kind of at night, just looking out. So it's quite scenic. So Eagle Lake is kind of divided in half by Narrows that has a little causeway going across, and this is at the south end of the lake, so it's very shallow. You can see a lot of rocks sticking up and weeds, but the water is pretty clean and warm, so we were happy with that. This is one of the trails along the waterfront, so lots of exposed boulder and granite, and pretty good scenery, but it's kind of a fairly steep drop off. So there's in between the beaches. This is kind of the trail that goes and connects them. So lots of little islands. Nice area to explore. And the water is pretty much shallow all along the shoreline. And across the lake, you'll see a lot of cottages and little islands. So it's great for if you have a canoe or a paddleboard or something like that. So just past the one beach there's an area to launch your paddle boards and things like that, and your rafts and inflatables. But down at the south end of the park is the actual boat launch, so that if you had a larger boat, you'd have to go down there. Which we didn't have a boat this time, or we didn't bring our bikes, so we just did everything by foot. And our dog was tied off between two trees on a tethering system, which worked out great. I actually have a separate video on that. It's called the Not a Hitch system. So yeah, she actually likes that. So here you can see the felled trees behind us. So there's kind of a little field that I think is the main septic bed in the distance there. So this is probably the trees that they cleared from that area. But it was nice to walk through this forest. There's lots to see, lots of lichen and mushrooms and fungi, things like that, which you'll see later on. We did a walk on one of the trails, and that's what impressed us the most was all the different growth on the trees and rocks and things like that. So it'd be a good place for close-up photography. So, you know, micro photography or close-ups. Of course, there's lots of birds. And unfortunately, you have noisy neighbors, but you'll hear that coming up. Really? But yeah, we had a family of woodpeckers and other interesting birds in the area, so we got to watch those. And lots of squirrels and chipmunks. The pines are generally in rows, so I believe this was a planted forest many years ago. This did open in 1964, so I'm not sure when these pines were planted. I don't know the full history of the park, but yeah, lots to see, lots of, especially at ground level, you know, lots of toads and mushrooms and lichen and fungi, lots of things like that. So this is close to the North Beach. Wasn't very busy at the end of the day, but during the day it is busy. It's a good park for small children because it's the beaches are very shallow. It's pretty warm, so I would say if you have young children, it's kind of an ideal park. Of course, we went during the pandemic, so there was all the activities, and if there was any guided hikes, anything like that was canceled. So there wasn't, unfortunately, not a lot to do. If we would have had a boat or our bikes, we'd probably have a little bit more to do. But we enjoyed exploring the shoreline and bringing Nellie down, and she had a blast in the water. So this is kind of, and you're looking at the map, there's two long trails, or fairly long. They're just 2 kilometers and 2.1 or 2.3, I believe. So we went on the Beaver Meadow Trail. We didn't do the other one. There is also shorter trails on the other side, closer to the lake. So one I think is the Point Trail and the Old Dog Trail. We didn't go on. We did go on the Point Trail and the one along the beaches there. So the one thing I have to say is make sure you wear mosquito repellent if you're doing the longer trails, because there was quite a good presence of mosquitoes. So when you first go into the trails, you're also in the same area where they do the frisbee golf. So you're kind of walking in the same area, and it can get confusing at first. They don't have great signage about, you know, where the main trail branches off from that frisbee golf area. So there is a bit of confusion there, and I've read that in other reviews too. So just keep that in mind. You might have to kind of navigate your way at the beginning. It's a little bit confusing. But then you come up, you go through a forest first, and there's quite a bit of exposed tree roots. So it's you know, it's fairly difficult. I wouldn't say a moderate, but light to moderate hike. And then you end up here at a little bridge overlooking kind of a beaver pond. So quite a bit to see. I think the main thing about this Beaver Meadow Trail is once you get past this bridge and you go into the kind of the elevated forest area, there's lots to see in terms of, like I said before, lots of mushrooms and fungi and lichen. It's all over the place and it's really interesting to see, but you do have to kind of dodge mosquitoes at the same time. So once you stop, they kind of come after you. So I would make sure you have a good repellent on. And it was a decent hike. It's 2 kilometers, some ups and downs. Some of the trail at the end was waterlogged, so I think they need to address that. I've heard other reviews too of the trail not being maintained that well, especially towards the end. So just keep that in mind. You might have to walk around some muddy areas, especially after a rainfall. But yeah, lots to see in terms of forest growth. We did not do the other 2.3 kilometer trail, so maybe do that in the future if we go back. So the other trail we did was the Point Trail, which is at the south end of the park next to the lake, and it's just a little point. It doesn't take very long. It's literally like a 10-15 minute walk, and it's pretty wide open and has decent views of the south end of the lake. And we even saw a little family of, I guess they were either moles or mice, but it was kind of interesting to see them running around. So there's kind of the end of the point, and a nice place to just hang out for a while and get some nice views of the lake. Good climbing tree there. And on the other side of the point is, I don't know if it's called the South Beach, but there is a less busy beach, which we did hang out at a few times and have a good swim. So if it's too busy at the main beaches, you can go down to the south end of the park. Kind of towards where the boat launch is, there's a small beach there to swim. There's also washroom facilities down towards that South Beach and where the point is, and near the dog park. So don't worry if you have to there. Washrooms, and you can get changed in there if you want. And they also have some taps there for drinking water. I'm going to show you a satellite image here of the north beach of the park, and there's a little trail that connects you to a road where the cottages are, and there you can see the road. And if you have your bikes with you, it's only about a 15-20 minute bike ride along this road, but it's kind of a shortcut to the Eagle Lake Narrows country store, which if you have to get any supplies or anything, that's where you can go. So including firewood. So they have a pretty good deal on firewood as well. So there's the address for the store if you want to put that in your devices to make it easier to drive to if you're driving from the park. So it's about a 10-minute drive, or like I said, a 15 to 20 minute bike ride. But we didn't have our bikes with us, but there is that pathway that connects to that road. So they have a good supply of firewood that they keep in bags, and I think it was $10 for a large bag. This is just a quick shot of the inside of the store. So they have several coolers and freezer, and a decent amount of kind of emergency supplies. If you forgot something at home, you can always run to the store and grab it, and some junk food, of course. There is a small kind of civic beach there right next to the Narrows, so just past the causeway, and it looks like it's partially accessible as well. So that's outside of the park. Okay, and then you're looking south towards the south end of that Eagle Lake. So if you're doing a side trip, I would encourage you to go to Crystal Cave. So it's about a 15-minute drive from the park, just south of South River. It has a lot of minerals and gems, stones, things like that. So a big gift shop, but kind of a little museum. And there's also another building with artisans and quite a bit to do. There's like a food truck. So it's a nice outing for a few hours if you get bored with the park, you can always go for a drive. But very interesting to see all the different, types of minerals and rocks and stones and things like that. They also have this interesting large map of the area. This is next to the parking lot, but you can kind of see the different areas to explore on the map. Of course, Nellie, I took her in this little circular spiral maze, but she was more interested, I think, in the little girl. She's a very she's a people person dog, so she's more interested in seeing people than anything else. So there she's going to see and say hello. I was trying to have her keep going, but yeah, nice place to check out. Not a long drive, like I said, it's about 10 to 15 minutes. There's also some artisans that sell their artwork in terms of paintings or handcrafts, things like that. It's quite a popular spot. And the other place I would recommend that's just towards Sundridge, so another 10 minutes down the road, is Copperhead Distillery. So they're fairly well known in the area. They do sell a lot of their distilled spirits in mason jars. So I encourage you to try some of the Canadian maple cream was one of my favorites. It was actually really good. And the chocolate almond cream, and they had some of their own original moonshine and some rye-based drinks and things like that. So it's kind of interesting to stop in there. So this is on the way back when we got it back into the park. This is a couple of empty sites kind of in between Pines and the Hardwood campground section. So I just wanted to show you an example of those. And it was a fairly quiet park for the most of the midweek we were there, but towards the weekend you have some rowdy people sometimes come in, and because we were in the Pines, not a lot of nothing to absorb the sound, and it got quite noisy, and we actually had to have the park come and talk to a few people next to us. We weren't the only ones complaining. Unfortunately, they were quite loud. So yeah, it was most of the experience was positive, but just keep that in mind. In the Pines area, it can get quite noisy. But we had a good time. It's a small park. Like I said, it's ideal for smaller kids, and if you have a canoe or a small watercraft, it's also good for that. But we enjoyed our time there. The drive wasn't too bad. Like I said, it was just under 4 hours for us with the rest stop, so it was a nice change from some of the other parks that we go to. And I'll link in the end of the video to some of the other reviews I've done. But I encourage you to check this park out if you can. Again, it's just north of Sundridge or Huntsville area. This was interesting. Behind our campsite, there was a whole swarm of dragonflies that were going after bugs, and basically within 5 or 10 minutes they cleared out all the bugs. I was just watching them. I was kind of fascinated how efficient they work. I also forgot to mention down at the south end of the park by the dog beach is volleyball nets and kind of an open area to do some activities. So keep that in mind as well by that south beach. So yeah, there's a fair amount to do. A fairly small park, but we enjoyed our time there. So thanks for watching, everyone. Stay tuned for more videos. Please subscribe, and bye for now.